Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody is doing great and wonderful. Well, before we get started on this week's topic, I need you to do one of three things for me. Number one, if you have not already, please subscribe to my channel. That way, whenever I upload a new video, you will get notification on whichever device of your choosing that you choose to watch me on. Number two, like a video. I promise you the likes are not for me. The likes are because of YouTube's algorithm, and it gets the video out there in front of more people, for people who need it and want it. And then number three, probably the most important, pass it forward. I always say what I have may not be for you, but it might be for somebody that you know and could use a little bit of a boost throughout their week. So pass it forward if that's something that you're able to do. So let's go ahead and get into this week's topic. Now, my title is not fancy, but y'all know me by this time. It's an acronym, right? So usually if there's a short word, you can probably almost guarantee there's an acronym to go along with it. So this week I have entitled this video, WAIT. What I have been finding out, guys, which has been so interesting even for me, is a lot of the older videos that I have done, I was in a space where I was reflecting on a lot I had been through. And so it was stuff from maybe like a year ago or 6 months prior to when I was actually recording. What I'm finding is a lot of what is on my heart to share is my like real-time lived experience of stuff that I'm actually dealing with right now. So I always say what works for me may not work for you, but maybe there's something in there that can be beneficial to you. So when I teach, especially given the topics that I teach on social problems and race and ethnicity and stratification and gender and health disparities, families, all these big people topics, if you will, right? And I tell my students, rarely will you ever hear me saying all of a group of people, because that's rarely true. But there are a few occasions where that is accurate. But I'm going to go ahead on a limb and say that all people at some point in our lives, we have to wait, right? The context of waiting is going to be different for all of us. When we have to wait, from big to small, is going to be different, but all of us have to wait at some point in our life. Whether it's waiting to get our coffee, waiting in traffic, not everybody's favorite, waiting to hear back from a job, waiting to hear back from the doctor, waiting to find out, if a relationship's gonna work. Do we wait on that? I don't know. We probably should not be waiting on that, but nonetheless, we're always waiting, right? And so I have yet, in my 42 years, almost 43 years of living, met a person who says, I love to wait. I have the patience of Job. Waiting is my favorite thing. I have yet to meet that person. It is certainly not me. Waiting is hard. Waiting is hard when it's especially the big things in life, right? That can really have an impact on our lives. Again, jobs, moves, health outcomes, getting into graduate school. Next year is my daughter's senior year of high school. We are going to be waiting to hear, from college admissions offices. So waiting is challenging, and it tests us so often. So what do we do when we have to wait? Because again, all of us are going to have to wait. A lot of waiting, I have discovered, is about our attitude. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit because that's actually one of the letters, but really all of this has to do with our attitude. So let's get into it. The first part of our acronym, WAIT. The W, this is a big one, okay? And I think it's hard when you're in it. It's easier when you're on the other side of it, but I think it's also doable. Welcome the lessons. I have really come to know that there's a lesson in everything. I guess I just choose to look at it that way. I truly believe whether it's the good things, the bad things, the horrible things, the traumatic things, the small things, I feel like there's a lesson in everything. But the thing is, you have to look for it. That's what makes us better people, right? Learning from our mistakes, learning from things that didn't work before, learning just about everything, right? Because essentially, if we feel like we've made mistakes, right? I try to be a person that doesn't have regrets, but if there's things that we have regrets about, or we just haven't made the best choices, we don't want to keep making those same mistakes over and over again, right? So we want to welcome the lesson. Maybe the lesson was, this person was not a good fit for me, or that job probably not the best thing for me to be doing, or those people probably not the best people to be hanging out with. There's a lesson in everything, right? But we have to be intentional. I love that word because I have a whole video on it about looking for the lessons that come while we're waiting. The A, we need to adjust our attitudes, right? Waiting really is an attitude game, guys. It's hard. There are days where I wake up and I feel like I got my superwoman cape on and I attack my day and I'm like, all the things I'm waiting for, I'm like, they will come when they come. God has got this, and I'm off and running. The very next day, I feel like I'm just all over the place with waiting, and it is so difficult, right? But I have learned yet again that a lot of it is just really me adjusting my attitude and saying, you know what? Whatever is supposed to happen will happen. I truly believe that God has got my back in so many things. And so when it's supposed to happen, it will happen. God's perfect timing, right? So that's the W, that's the A, the I. I don't think any of these are any more important than the others. I think what I end with for me is going to be the most important. But as I say a lot of times when I put these different acronyms together, you got to figure out which one is the most important for you. But I think they're all tied together. The I. While you're waiting, it will never hurt you to increase your knowledge. That can be increasing your knowledge about, let's just say you're waiting on a job. Okay. Learning about what you're about to step into, increasing your knowledge. Now somebody might say, okay, Favor, Professor Campbell, Mom, if Jaden watches this one, how am I going to increase my knowledge? What am I increasing my knowledge about by waiting in traffic? Right? Well, it doesn't have to necessarily be about that situation per se. Increasing your knowledge is something you do while you're waiting. Okay. There's all kind of things that we can do to increase our knowledge while we're waiting. I'm thinking outside the box here. So waiting in traffic, right? That is my time where I get caught up on my Sunday sermons. That's the time I get caught up on my podcast. That's the time that I get caught up on just reflecting and praying. That is almost essentially like my quiet time, my me time. It makes traffic a little bit bearable. Now, admittedly, that's probably unfair for me to say because I really don't sit in traffic a lot because I go to work when traffic is died down. But there's always something that we can be increasing our knowledge. If we're just sitting around complaining and twiddling our thumbs and not making the most of it out of our time, and that's essentially what I'm saying about increasing your knowledge. Don't waste your time, right? We can be mad. That's the whole attitude adjustment. We can complain. We can say, when are they going to call me? What's going on? We can use that time wisely. Increasing your knowledge is doing that. And then the last one, like I said, this is probably the most important for me. And it's a lesson I have to learn every single day, guys, is to trust God. Like I said, I truly believe that God has my back in a lot of things, but I don't feel that every single moment. Okay. I don't want to walk around or talk like I have a halo on my head and just like life is just works out the way I always want it to work out. That is absolutely not true. But I do trust God with my life. He has not let me down at all. And it's really that, just trusting the process, trust God, doing your part, allowing him to do his part, and essentially all of it will come together. So waiting, it's hard. I know I'm waiting now for so many things, but I hope that I am my best version of myself while I'm waiting. Because the other thing is too, I have this pair of eyeballs that are around me all the time in the form of a 17-year-old. And so I want to teach her, the best possible ways, the life lessons. And, she pays attention to how her mom waits. If I'm in line and I'm, getting upset and having a little bit of a temper tantrum, that's not a good example, right? So I want to be a good example, not only to her, but my students and to anybody that I come in contact with. So we're going to practice waiting. We're going to welcome the lessons. We're going to adjust our attitudes. We're going to increase our knowledge. And most importantly, we're going to trust God. So I hope somebody gets something out of that. As always, I hope you have a wonderful week or weekend, and I'll see y'all on the next video.